Element 17 is examining similarities and differences. The desired effect of Element 17 is that students can examine and explain similarities and differences to deepen their knowledge. Being able to see similarities and differences between topics allows students to discover patterns and make connections, which is fundamental to cognitive processes. Strategies aimed at examining similarities and differences can boost student achievement by creating opportunities for students to link, connect, and synthesize ideas in order to deepen their understanding of the content. The use of graphic organizers can help facilitate the deepening of knowledge when examining similarities and differences. The process of classification requires students to sort elements into categories and to identify attributes for placing items into each category. A classification chart involves a more teacher-directed form of classification. A more formalized way to reinforce students' work with comparison involves the use of a matrix in which items being compared are listed at the top of the matrix and questions about areas of similarity and difference are listed vertically on the left side of the page. How can I help students examine similarities and differences? When planning, look for topics that allow for extended comparisons. Model comparisons, classifications, similes, metaphors, and analogies. Ask students to explain and justify their reasoning for the comparisons. Ask students to revise their comparisons after discussing them with peers. These strategies can lead to engagement of rich discussions, which link ideas and foster student construction of new insights.
Hi, my name is Veronica Sliwinski, and I teach 6th grade reading at Chasco Middle School. So for this task, what we had were 2 separate passages, both speaking of the Great Lakes. There was a lower level passage that was a fluency passage that was the start, when we scaffolded it, that started the whole process, and they were to point out main ideas and details. Then we had a more complex, higher level text speaking on the same topic, and this was a 750 word passage. And so what the students were doing were comparing and contrasting the 2 articles. Again, they did it independently. Then, after they got all their tasks, or all their, details written down, they were to pick out the 4 details that were separate to the individual articles, and then they were to get 8 details for both articles together. And then they were going to talk with a partner, collaborate with a partner, to see if they had the same details, where they came to those details. And then when they were done talking with the shoulder partners, they then worked with the whole group of table partners. There's usually 3 to 4 per table.
We're learning how to determine the similarities and differences of passages, as in comparing them to one another.
In our learning goal, we have to find major and minor details. We read both these passages, and then we found the major and minor details for both of the passages, and then we put 8 details that were similar and 4 that were different for each.
For me, I think it was a little bit of a challenge for me. So
yeah, I did also find it very, very challenging.
Similarity, differences, because they both had basically the same thing in the passage, just this one had more details and described the Great Lakes more.
If we're trying, like real life, if we're trying to find something, like if something's different, but you want to find what's the same about them, you have to scan through whatever you have and find out the right details for it.
for comparison.
Actually, I was inspired because we were working on a fluency lesson on the Great Lakes, and that fluency lesson where we were able to not only examine similarities and differences, the task was actually to look for main idea, major details, and minor details. And I found a similar article. I did some research and found a governmental article, US EPA, all about the Great Lakes, and it was definitely a higher level passage, and I figured what better way to do the transition from the lower level passage to the higher level passage. And they had identical main ideas in very similar details and yet a lot of different details, so it was perfect